I feel like I've spent a good portion of my life wrestling both with what it means to be a follower of Jesus in the Anabaptist tradition and with what it means to be an artist, and ultimately how to bring these two challenging aspects of life into some sort of harmony. Anabaptist culture has traditionally seen most forms of art as, at a minimum, unnecessary and more likely something to be opposed and resisted. In just a moment, I want to give a few reasons as to why this is the case, but first I want to point out that it took me personally a long time to see any value in this cultural resistance to most forms of art. I felt constantly frustrated by what I saw as indifference, suspicion in those around me towards aesthetics and towards that desire to express oneself in artistic forms. And I couldn't understand how my creative urges had a place in this context. So if you are watching this as an Anabaptist and a creative person, perhaps you have felt some of this conflict as well. I don't think that I have answered this problem or this challenge completely by any means, but I have at least made a start on answering it. So let me give first a few reasons that we Anabaptists are opposed to art. The first reason that we are opposed to art is that it is too sensual. It is far too concerned with the body, with the way things look and feel, with love and romance and sexuality and pleasure and colors and textures and beauty. And these things are largely contrary to the Anabaptist morality that we are permeated with, and they cut across the grain of our ethical fibers that are just woven throughout our worldview. So Anabaptist culture is not just concerned with ethics, it is an ethic. It is about right living. Without the strong, dominating guardrails of right and wrong, our Anabaptist culture just simply ceases to exist. And because of this, there is a natural tension within Anabaptism when it comes into contact with much of the world of art. A second reason that we are often opposed to art is the fact that art often presents life as messy and complicated, and it loves to explore the gray areas in the emotional shadows, in the unexplored detours of life, and it often seemingly revels in the compulsions of passion and the tyranny of emotions. And again, Anabaptism often finds itself butting heads with these sorts of sensibilities because Anabaptism is fundamentally, I believe, about walking in discipleship and right living that leads to holiness, and it tends to find it safer to simply dispense with emotion and with passion. Of course, there's problems with that. And of course, we as artists are frustrated with this simple-minded mentality, we think, which reduces all of life seemingly to simple choices of will, and it seems to dismiss our feelings and desires as unnecessary at times. So here again we have a fundamental tension that is difficult to resolve. Anabaptist tradition saying, just trust and obey, walk in the way, all of your problems will go away. And those with an artistic bent are saying, what is wrong with you people? Don't you feel anything? Don't you people have souls? A third issue that Anabaptists have with art relates to the emphasis that Anabaptists place on practicality and work ethic and hands-on results. And this can cause a clash with art because art does not always have an obvious practical use or necessity. So in this view, art elevates things that are unnecessary, and therefore it creates this fallacy of prioritizing things that are peripheral and unnecessary. Quick story to illustrate this. I remember an old farmer that was a neighbor to us when we were growing up, and he just embodied this mindset. And they had an old farmhouse with a wood stove for heat and never painted the interior of that house. And of course, it got dingier and dingier and dingier. And the story was that his wife one time requested that they paint the kitchen and the living room. His response was, "What do you want to paint it for? Gray is a color too." So there's the classic line, gray is a color too. A fourth difficulty that Anabaptists have with art is the critique that art wallows in feelings, and it spends endless amounts of time juggling and examining and crafting and massaging emotion, all in some sort of manipulative or navel-gazing kind of extravagance that just wastes time and leads people astray. So by contrast, Anabaptism likes to have things clear, straightforward, and again, as I referenced earlier, clear morals and ethics with a wide divide between right and wrong. The last issue that I would like to point out is adhered to by varying degrees across Anabaptism, and it's not a belief that I was taught, but it is representative of some of the culture of Anabaptism and would be worthy of a case study in and of itself. And that is the idea that portraiture is forbidden by Scripture on the grounds that it is a graven image, or creating a graven image, and that therefore it's something that's idolatrous according to the Bible. Now, I can't say that I understand this position well enough to discuss it intelligibly, but I know that it is held to, and it illustrates how Anabaptism sees various aspects of art as cutting across the grain of our dearly held beliefs and moral concepts. So this concludes part one of this two-part series on Anabaptists and art, problems and solutions. And hopefully I stirred some thinking on your part. In my next video, I would like to put forth some of my thoughts about how Anabaptists can engage the world of art from within our cultural structure and share a few ideas about that. So I'll see you in the next one.